Sparks that I don't remember. Hold and let it shine. Fix and start to fade away. Fix and start to fade away. Fix and start to fade away.
Hello, dear friends of Kabbalah International. We are once again with Mario Sabán.
Shalom, Nacho. How are you?
Shalom, Mario. Very good. Excellent. Today we are going to talk about family relationships. And I would like to start from the perspective that many family relationships, or most of them, established nowadays are fundamentally based on inherited patterns. That is to say, that there is a previous conditioning to the relations that we establish in our own families. I would like to know your opinion on this.
From the perspective of Kabbalah, the soul chooses its family, which opens up an entirely new area for exploration. It's not just that your family is the one you happen to end up with. Rather, it is the one you have chosen in order to fulfill your rectification. In other words, from an energetic standpoint, you choose that family because it will present you with issues that will allow you to grow. Thus, every family is an opportunity. Now, family relationships are not always easy because they are the closest ones and they establish in some way a balance between imbalances. In other words, in family relationships, you might see a family as balanced, but all the components of imbalances within it are trying to find equilibrium. This means that one person's imbalance may be balanced within the family system by another person's imbalance. Notice many times what happens when someone leaves a family to live abroad or to live alone, where all that family enters in a kind of destabilization, because the space that was covered by this person in the system has disappeared. The entire system must reconfigure itself in all its roles, since this person is gone. The one who leaves always leaves a void, but the system must retie itself from a different angle. This person also, in some way, supported certain types of imbalances of others, and when they leave, this sometimes highlights the imbalances of those who remain. For example, a child who wants to leave home and be independent may only feel their independence when a sibling leaves, and sometimes that departing sibling reflects the inability of the previous sibling to leave. As you can see, we are talking about family relationships as a system in equilibrium, but one that can have imbalances within it. And all the frustrations and the desires and all those conditioning patterns are being held in that core until someone there says, I am going to start my rectification process.
Very interesting. We could say that within the family structure we could also generate a kind of representation of the tree of life, and that each of the members would have a kind of role analogous to each of the Sephiroth.
Of course, any family can be represented with a tree of life. We might not have all the components for all 10 dimensions, but it's clear who is taking which role or position, or what kind of threat one person poses to another. Essentially, I would say that the family is the best field for rectification.
Sure.
Because the most common forces of conditioning are present. The problem is that since you are conditioned by your own family, you sometimes don't notice these imbalances because family imbalances don't seem like imbalances. The usual nature of these imbalances appears as something normal. It is only when you meet other people or other families that you realize something imbalanced was happening in your own family, when you can see it comparatively. But initially, the small child born into the family believes that what they are seeing is normal, and it internalizes it in such a way that the most difficult imbalances to remove from one's personality are those inherited from family patterns. Because family patterns are what you have seen since you were a child. For example, we have two types of imbalances in the soul.
Yes.
The personal ones that we have to balance and the patterns. The personal ones are much easier, because if they haven't been integrated, they haven't adhered to your identity, so you can correct them. But those that have been attached to you since you were very young, which practically belong to the structure of your identity, are very difficult to change. And I will tell you, I will even mention minimal issues. You didn't see in your family that teeth brushing was a norm, so you don't brush your teeth. It's not that you're dirty, it's just that you see it as natural in your family. When two people get married or live together, they bring the patterns from each of their families. So one person might ask the other, "But don't you brush your teeth? How can that be?" Or one might shower in the morning while the other showers at night, or one showers every 2 days while the other showers every day. This is why the couple is very important, because in a relationship, all these patterns from both families start to surface, that you have received, and the universe of patterns that the other received. So in the universe of patterns that I received, the towel could be there. In the universe of patterns that the other received, the towel has to be hanging somewhere else. And although they seem to be minimal issues, they reflect very well the patterns in which one has been educated, even in the way we eat. Or when you are with your partner on first dates, you can see ways of eating as different, neither positive nor negative. I am talking about different. What does this mean? That we come from different family universes. For this reason, many people also find it difficult to build a partnership because the challenge is that two different universes have to merge into one. So one might say, "Oh God, I have to give up inherited family patterns to be with this woman, and this woman also has to give up her family patterns." The covenant exchanges that there are in two people within a couple, until the couple is formed and creates its own universe, is not so easy. Because each one comes to a different universe with different patterns, no matter how close they are. That's why, in general, culturally, people choose someone very close to their culture, because if you are from a very, very different culture, sometimes those patterns are so different that they are difficult to unite within a couple. That's why building a family is such a challenge. You learn a lot about which dimensions you have imbalanced in relation to the other person, when you need to correct them, when you see that you can correct them, and when you realize that the family can no longer correct them and you end up inheriting patterns you want to correct. Sometimes to correct these patterns you need to be outside of the family, because sometimes it is not possible to correct them within the original family. Sometimes a person has to go to study or live in another country to realize what has to be corrected. Look at the case of Abraham's Torah. He was an idolater. Everybody was an idolater. When he wanted to be a monotheist, he had to leave, because there he could not be corrected. Every time he fell into idolatry, it was very difficult to be a monotheist in an environment where they are all idolaters. So he left from Ur of the Chaldeans because he needs to define his identity, and he needs to rectify by leaving the system in which he found himself.
He is transformed into another because the hay is added.
In reality, he transforms himself into what he really was. You never transform into someone else. What he does is to return to its essence.
He acquires his true identity.
That is, he acquires his true identity.
To go to something more earthly, I wanted to ask you how you would evaluate from a Kabbalah perspective the relationship of children to parents and parents to children.
In Kabbalah, there is a phrase that we say, "The love of parents is for their children, and the love of children is for their own children." It means that you can never expect your child to love you as much as you love them, because the love you have for your child will always be greater than the love your child has for you, as your child in turn must love their own children. Thus, your child's love for their own child will be very strong. You can only understand a parent's love when you are a parent.
Yes, that's right. Mario, we will continue with this topic another time.
Family relationships is a long topic, deep and of much learning. In family relationships, there is a lot of learning. There is much to learn from all the imbalances and components, and you can grow a lot within the family. The point is that you cannot change the family, nor can you be the Messiah for family imbalances.
Of course.
As no one is the Messiah. When the Messiah does not work, he has to go.
Thank you.
A hug. Shalom.